Good afternoon, everybody. It is Thursday, May 26th. Welcome to Susie Q's 3 on Thursday. My name is Sue Sanders, and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Missouri. Today is rainy and dreary. It's been raining off and on all day. So I've been able to spend some time in my studio room getting prepared for today's live video. I just wanted to show you this card that my assistant, Dorothy, put together. When I cut the paper, and I'll show you that when I get to that card, I cut it really funny, and it did not work for my card. So I had a piece that looked like this. So if you can see that, that's upside down. So I thought, well, I'm not going to waste that paper. So what can we do with it? So I gave Dorothy the task to figure out how to make a card using this piece of designer series paper. And she came up with this cute card. So what she did was she used a piece of the Orchid Oasis and she ran it through the embossing folder, the fern embossing folder, and she cut the paper in 1/2-inch strips because of course the angle was really weird. Then she laid down the paper strips. So while it's just kind of a makeshift, let's see what we've got that we can do with you. So that's what we made with it. I'll move it down here, or do I need to move it up? Down? Okay. Um, so anyway, I just wanted to show you that. So if you make a boo-boo in cutting your paper, don't fret. You can still use it. I have another idea to use this one, so I will probably post that. Okay, so today we are going to be using several different stamp sets. I don't know. We are going to draw for our winner from last week's cards. I did not do that this morning, and I apologize. But these are the cards that we made last week. That was the very simple one. And then this was a stepped up one that we did die cutting with the frame. And then this was the Avid, where we actually cut out and then colored in our flowers. And this was using the color and contour stamp set and the scallop dies. So we will get a winner here for these cards here in just a minute. So I'll let y'all know who won that. Hi, Cherie and Teresa. How are you all doing today? I'm so glad that you're able to join us, Teresa. I want to thank you for my beautiful card. I have not been able to get one sent back out to you yet. I'm working on it, but I did have my big class on the 14th. And then last week on the 21st, I went to Kansas City and had a meeting with some other Stampin' Up! Demonstrators. I don't know if you all got the chance to see the pictures that I posted, but I was a winner and I was really, really excited about that. I can't tell you one thing that I won, but I can on the 1st of June. So I'm excited about that. Okay, so let's jump right in. I am going to show you how to make a very easy diagonal fold card. So here's the diagonal fold. And then when you open it up, and the stamp set that we're going to be using is the Best Butterflies. Best Butterflies. And this designer series paper is from the Teacup, Tea Bouquet designer series paper. And then we are also going to use the Butterfly Kisses designer series paper. And it is featuring the in color cardstock. Okay, so this is not a hard card. I have a secret to help you cut this paper, and then it has the belly band that goes on it like so. And then this butterfly is actually one of the dies from the butterfly die set. Okay, so let's set that aside so we can go over what we've got. So first off, you're going to have a piece of cardstock, and this is the Sweet Sorbet. Thank you, Teresa. They get redone on Tuesday. I'm not sure what color I'm going to go with, but so we have a piece of paper that measures 5.5 by 11 inches, and we scored it, and I've already done that, at 3 3/8, and then again at 7 5/8. Or you can just score it at 3 3/8 and flip it around and score it again at 3 3/8. And that way then it gives you your folds. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and crease these because we are going to do some cutting on this cardstock, and I want to be able to see where my angle cuts need to be. Okay, so we are going to take our paper trimmer, okay, and hopefully I can stay in the camera view. And I do have to say, everybody, that out of all the trimmers that I've ever used in my paper crafting, the Stampin' Up! Trimmer is by far the best one. It has both the score one and the cutting one. But you also have this clear track, so you can see right down in where that cutting line is. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to take, and on the 5.5 inch side, we are going to place that at the 1.5 inch mark. And we are going to move our blades out of the way. We're going to take one of the soft lead pencils, and I do use the Bic ones because they erase very easily. And I'm just going to make a little tick mark right there where the 1.5 inch mark is. And I'm going to do that at the top and the bottom. Now I'm going to flip over my paper, and I'm going to mark it at the 1 inch spot. The same way. So a tick mark at the 1 inch, top and bottom. Okay. Now, while we have that out, I have 2 pieces of the Designer Series paper, and these measure 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. Now, if you are not very good at the directional paper, such as this, because it goes up and down, then I suggest trying this out with a non-directional paper so that you don't have to worry about which way it's going up and down. So we are going to take and put the right sides together, because this is the piece I want to show. So we're going to put the right sides together just like that. And we are going to turn this on its side like so. And we are going to mark it again at the 1.5 inch. And we're going to do these both at the same time so that the cuts are exact. So make sure that you've got your paper lined up exactly. We're going to mark it at the 1.5 inch. And then we're going to flip it over. And we're going to mark it at the 1 inch. Okay, now ask me how I know that you need to flip over your paper. Because if you don't flip your paper over, you're going to get a cut that looks like this, which is not going to work for our card. All right, so we're going to go ahead and cut this paper first, and we're going to find that little 1 inch tick mark. We're going to line that tick mark up. I want to make sure that you guys can pretty well see it. We're going to line that up with the corner of our paper and the tick mark down here. Okay, now I always suggest that when you are cutting on an angle like this, don't come in from the top or the bottom, but come in from the middle. So I can see my corner is at the point there in in the track, and my tick mark is over here, and we're going to slice through. That's our first cut. And you get two little triangles that I'm going to figure out what to do with those. Now we're going to turn it over, and we have our tick mark here and our corner. So we're going to line up our corner right in that track and line up our tick mark so that it's right there in the middle of the track. And that's why I like the trimmer from Stampin' Up! Is you can actually see through this and you can see your marks. So now I've made that. So see, now we have two identical cuts. That's why it's important to flip it and not just mark it like I did last night on the wrong sides. Okay, we're going to bring in our 5.5 by 11 sheet, and we're going to do the same thing with our tick marks. So here's my 1.5 inch tick mark, and down here, I don't know if you can see it, I will. Hi Cindy, how are you today? I'm going to mark it with a little bit of pencil, but that's where my score line ended up. So I'm going to put my tick mark there and my score line point right there and get it just as even as I possibly can. And I'm going to make my slice. So we've got one corner done so far. Now we're going to do the bottom corner. We're going to go from that crease to our tick line. And I'm going to put just a little line there so that I can make sure I'm right on my fold. Are you all able to see there? Okay, is there a chance you could back up the camera a little bit? You are very close. I can back up this. Is that going to help? I can't back up my camera very much, or let's see. Let me move the camera back and see what happens, Cherie. Or do I not need to? I can't move the zoom in on the camera. As soon as I can get my printer to scan, I am going to post out on my blog the dimensions for these cards that we're making today. So you will also have a diagram of this. So here is my second cut. Is that better, Cherie, or not? I'm waiting for it to catch up. Okay. Excuse me. Again, I'm going to go from my score line to my tick line and starting in the center, and I have one more cut to do. Wish me luck, ladies. I hope that I get this right on and I don't have to worry about it. The tick line's just not. So you could do this card with just the two top angles if you wanted to. You would not have to have the bottom angles. So we are done with our trimmer, so that can be put away. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and erase all these tick marks so that they don't show when my card is completed. It looks like I may need to get a new blade. I go through those things like water, I think, sometimes. Okay, so now we can go ahead and fold in our card. I'm going to show you a little trick here with this. I'm going to take a little emery board here, And if you ever have some of those rough edges from your trimmer, you can kind of just take them off with an emery board. And I keep one in my drawer in my room for this purpose. Okay, I just lost you all in my feed. Let me see if I can get you back. I don't know. There we go. Okay. All right, now the fun time comes, okay? So here is our inside piece, and it's just a regular measurement of 4 1/4 or 4 by 5 1/4, and we're going to stamp on the inside of that. So we're going to set our papers aside, and we're going to do our stamping. And for this, I am using my Stamparatus. And so what I've done is I've already lined up where I want my paper to go, and I made little marks on it so that I can line it back up where I want it, put in a magnet, and I am going to use one of the flowers from the Shaded Summer set, which is this one right here, because I wanted just a very light outline of a flower on the inside of my card. So we're going to use Orchid Oasis, and that's got my rubber on it, so I don't want to do that yet. The Stamparatus is for my words. While I was at my meeting last week, I asked Chad, who is from home office, and explained to him that I was having some issues with some of our new photopolymer stamps not giving me a great impression when I have words. So he said that there's a film that doesn't always get completely wiped off in the manufacturing of those. So give them a good rub with your hand or with your chamois, your Stampin' scrub, to kind of get that film off so that it kind of helps the ink to adhere to that stamp better. So I'm taking my stamp here with the Orchid Oasis, and I'm going to stamp this off twice and then stamp on my card base the third time. So there's 1 and 2, and I'm going to just go right in the center of my card and see how light that is. Clean my stamp real quick or I'll end up getting it all over me. And I also seen a camera stand that I'm hoping that my dear hubby will help me put together, maybe this weekend if we have time. I don't know. He has his class reunion on Friday, and he's selling poppies for the VFW in the morning, so we may not have time to do that. Okay, now we're going to come in and we're going to stamp our greeting. And I love the greetings in this set. Excuse me, with the butterflies, the best butterflies. It has "So glad you exist," "Sending good vibes," "All the love," "You're my bestie," "Hey," and then you can put together some of these butterflies. And at the end, I'll show you some of the butterflies that I practiced with last night just to see kind of how they looked. But on this card on the inside, I'm putting "So glad you exist," because I know that we have lots of friends, girlfriends, male friends. I don't want to call them boyfriends because we may not have boyfriends, but male friends. And we are glad that they're part of our lives. Now I'm going to stamp this with the Orchid Oasis, and I'm going to do it full strength. I'm just going to make sure that my lineup is good. It doesn't really matter if it's right in the center of that flower or not. And one reason I'm doing it with the Stamparatus is because of that extra film that might be on my stamps, I can go back over and see here I didn't get Glad You. It didn't come through great. So now I can go back and restamp that. And I couldn't do that if I didn't have it on my Stamparatus. So I'm cleaning that off to make sure that I get the other neat thing, and I really need to have spots, but if you use your Stampin' spots instead of your big ink pads, you make less of a mess. So how is the weather down in Florida, Teresa? There we go. So it did get a little bit of extra ink between my S and my O. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Okay, so we are done with that one. Although that is going to bother me. Let me take a look at it. Yeah, that bothers me. So we're going to flip this over and we're going to do it again. Because that's just me. I don't want it to be. So let's bring back in our flower. Stamp off once, stamp off twice, and stamp. So that just gives us a real light flower design. I think that's really pretty. I'm already thinking about what next week's cards are going to be because I may or may not be live. It may be a pre-recorded. You will just have to wait and find out next week because I'll be going to Springfield for my husband's VFW convention. His post, he's the commander for the post, and his post won All-American as well as All-State this year. You have to do a whole bunch of different things in order to get those, so he gets to get this special hat. So I'm going to go down and watch that presentation and have a weekend getaway, although he'll be busy, and I don't know why this has that ink. I think it's just the way I'm stamping it or inking it. Because I plan on making cards while I'm sitting in the hotel room. Because isn't that what everybody does when they go away, right? I do. Get that back in my thing because it shifted. And if this one doesn't turn out, then I will give you my original, which is good. Yep. Maybe I'm just pressing too hard, getting that ink in between. Now let's see if I've shifted it. Shifted it. So does anybody have great big plans for this weekend? Okay. I'm not real fond of this, so we're not going to put this in the center of the card, but you get the idea. I will get it perfected to send it to whoever the winner is for this one, because I'm not liking that how it's done, and I think I just pressed too hard on it. But it will go on the inside of your card like so. Okay, so it's just a very unique little thing. So now let's put the rest of our card together. All right, and I used my liquid glue, but you could probably use your adhesives if you wanted to, but using the glue gives me a little bit of wiggle room for my fronts, because you want to line these up like this, and there is a top and bottom that you can tell the difference. The top has a wider, what I call V, than the bottom, and you're going to have a very narrow border around this. On with the glasses so that you can see what you're doing. So here is, I'm just taking and gluing my, I don't know, if you all don't have these little precision glue bottles, I definitely would suggest getting some. I found mine at Hobby Lobby in the painting section. Two of them, two different sizes, for like $1.98. So relatively cheap. A little extra. Okay, so we've got one side laid down, and now we're going to lay down the other side. And it matches up really pretty good. Like I said, you've got more of a border at the top and the bottom of your angle than you do on the sides, but that's because of the angle cut that you're doing. And if you didn't have, or if I didn't have so much trouble with the stamping of my words, it would not be so long. Here's my pencil. I didn't get this little tick mark that I had there, so we're going to get that erased. Yes, and then I had my Orchid Oasis completely opened. That would make a mess if I stuck my hand in it. Okay, so there is the base of the card. Now we're going to make the belly band to put around it so that it stays closed. So you are going to use a 1-inch piece of the matching cardstock. So you would get that right from that piece of 5.5 by 11. And this piece measures 9.5, I believe. Yes. So what I'm going to put on our belly band is I have got a piece of the petal pink, and I have one of the die cuts from the butterfly set. And this is just a cutout butterfly. And if you were going to lay this flat, which I am not today, then I would definitely recommend using the adhesive sheets, because it's such a fine detailed die cut. Okay, so 2 ways you can do this, and I have my Stamparatus set up again to use for this, because this is a cool little trick and I need to use it more often than not. And that is taking your die cut, and I need my little foamy mat. There it is. Taking your die cut, just like I've done here, and now I'm going to put this right back inside that die cut piece, and it's going to fit. And you just maybe have to turn it around if I got it turned upside down. And it goes this way. Cut it this way, so maybe. It's like a puzzle. There it is. Now I got it. Okay. So I've stuck my die cut right back in that frame. All right. Now I'm using this twice, and so it was set up for my other jig that I've got. but we're going to make this one work by just moving our jig here. So give me just a second, because it does fit. Tell you what, the other jig, I already got one of them cut out, so I'm going to move this one so that I get this straight on. And I'm going to move it down to my eye level. So there's my die cut. There's my stamp. Straighten it up a little bit. Okay, so now you can see that it's going to go right into that die cut. Oh yes, and it moved my die cut puzzle piece again. There we go. Sometimes things just don't want to cooperate with Sue. When that shifted, it shifted just a smidge. Okay, and I am stamping this, and I know, normally, ordinarily, I would not put like a pink, but petal pink is not, to me, it's more of a flesh tone than it is a pink. So I've inked up my You're My Bestie. And there it is. And that looks pretty good. I don't think I'm going to put another set of ink on there because that looks pretty good and it looks pretty full. So there is our You're My Bestie. Clean that stamp off. It's a trick that I forget to do too, Cherie, and I don't know why, because it makes life so much easier when you, pre-cut your die, and then you can stamp it with your Stamparatus. Okay, so now a lot of people will take and score their belly bands. Well, that kind of cracks your paper sometimes. So here's a trick for you, ladies. Take your bone folder and just kind of break those fibers up on the front as well as on the back. I learned this from another demonstrator, and I thought, well, that makes a whole lot of sense to kind of break those fibers so that they don't necessarily crack when you're folding it over for your belly band. All right, so now we're going to lay our card, lay it the right direction with the envelopes going up, and we are going to fold this over. And you want to make sure that you don't get it too tight, but you don't want to get it too loose either. Okay, I don't know if I cut this one down. I may not have cut this one down to 9.5, but that's okay. All right, and then I am going to trim this off just a little bit, but I'm just going to do it with a pair of nips because I don't need all that extra. Okay, so you want to make it kind of tight, but you don't want it too tight that it's not going to slide. So I think that one's going to slide pretty good. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up this part, and I'm going to make just a little tick line that I don't want to go past that with my adhesive, because I definitely don't want it to be, and I am using my Stampin' Seal Plus. Oops. I can tell I'm getting down to the end because I have to be lighter handed than going after it like a bull in a china cabinet. We're just going to take that piece of paper off there. and do it from this side so that it catches it. I know, why would we do easy, right? We like to make things more difficult for us sometimes. All right, so we're going to line that back up. And that little tick mark is not going to show because our greeting is going to go right over our belly band. Okay, so I did pop my belly band up off of the belly thing here, the band. My greeting, I mean, not my belly band. My greeting. I haven't had a nap today, ladies, and I was up really early. I am going to take my butterfly and I'm going to attach kind of like his body to the back of the greeting. Okay, and I'm just doing that with a little bit of glue because I'm not really getting it, because his little spots here that are open, those are going to get covered with some dimensionals. So I'm just gluing him like that. Then I'm going to add dimensionals to the back side of him. And I am going to use my mini dimensionals because I think they will fit better on his body. So I'm going to put one right there. And then I'm going to put one right. It's not what I say. You have to kind of read my mind, Teresa, and it's what I do. Yes, definitely. And then I'm going to go ahead and put dimensionals on the rest of the greeting. And I sometimes probably overdo dimensionals, but I don't want it to sag when it does go through the mail. So I like to make sure that they're spaced out and that I'm not going to end up with a saggy little card. I mean, if you put in the time to make it, you don't want it to be saggy by the time you get it. So I'm a dimensional girl. What was that song?
Material.
I'm a Material Girl by Madonna. Oh, I'm aging myself. Okay, so now I'm going to put on my greeting. Whoops, not so far over. Not fair over, far over. Because I don't want the butterfly's wings to stick beyond the card. So we're going to bring him in. And then we're going to set him down just like that. Isn't that cute? I like that. And I love this lacy butterfly. Okay, now I am using some of the champagne rhinestones. I thought it just needed a little bit of bling, but I didn't want to do a whole lot of bling. And I thought, oh, you know, I think that butterfly needs some bling in his back area here. So we're going to take 3 of the tiniest ones, and we are going to put them on his body. And I'm trying to line them up in a straight line, but I can't cut a straight line, so what makes myself think that I could put things in a straight line? So there is card number 1, and of course, I'm going to redo this, ladies, because that's just not, I'm not happy with that. And I don't want to take the time to stamp anymore. So there is card number 1. So that one will be fixed for whoever the winner is next week for these cards. Okay, I don't know what my time is. Hopefully I didn't take too 39. Well, that means I've got less than 30 minutes to make the next 2. Hopefully, maybe you ladies don't have anything too much planned tonight, and if we go over a little bit, it won't be too bad. All right, so our next card is kind of an accident card. Well, not really. I had it planned, but I wanted to use the scraps of the paper that I used for my other card. And so I thought, okay, we're going to make a fun fold card, and we're going to use the strips of our excess paper. So you start with a card base of 5.5 by 8.5. And then once you get it scored at the 4 1/4, you're going to take and trim off 1 inch from the right-hand side of your card base. Now you're going to keep that 1 inch and you are going to score it in half. So this is, and then you're going to cut off a little bit of it because you don't need the whole thing. Okay, so when you score it in half, then you'll be able to fold it and you'll be able to trim off what you don't need. You don't need all of that. Too much bulk for you. All right. The first thing that we're going to do, and you can decide however you want to do this. You can use the same patterns. You can use different pattern, whatever. But I took my butterfly paper and I laid it down. And then I took the piece that has, it's another butterfly, but it has, the back side is little green dots. And so I'm going to put those two on the front of my card, leaving some space so that you can see the starry sky, because this is the starry sky paper. And then I have a piece that is the back side of this butterfly paper. And I'm going to use that color over here on this 1 inch cutoff. So it kind of shows that there's 3 pieces. They're different widths, but there's going to be starry sky in between. And I thought that was a really cool look. So we're going to start laying these pieces down, and I'm going to use my Tombow glue. And I just thought that this would be a fun card, and I used the layering circle dies. And you could use any size layering circle that you wanted to use. I just chose one of the smaller two, the scallop and the circle that fits inside of it. And I am just leaving my little border around the top and the bottom and on the side. And now I'm going to glue my green piece to the left-hand side of my card front. And these little dots don't really have a direction, so it's not imperative that they get directional. And they're not going to be an even space, okay? So there's not, I didn't measure. I'm not going to measure. That's too much of a hassle. Come on and shift down for me. I do want you kind of even at the top and the bottom, because then this piece is going to go over here. And I don't really think it matters because it's got those stripes of that blue paper. You can see that blue paper between the sections of paper. And so I think that's kind of a cool look. And this design, this layout, could be used with any kind of designer series paper. It's a good way to use up scraps. And I know we all have scraps laying around, don't we, ladies? Because we hoard our paper. We need to use our paper. Love your paper. Chop up your paper. Dorothy doesn't like to chop her paper. She doesn't like to cut her paper. She buys the paper and then she hoards it and she uses my paper. And it's like, really? Seriously? You can't cut into your own pack of paper? Okay. So there is the front of our card. And like I said, I did not measure how much space I had between the different sections. It doesn't matter to me. Now, I'm not stamping anything on the inside of this. What I am going to do is I am going to attach this piece that we folded that's blue. And I'm going to align it up, but I'm going to line it so that part of it comes out to the edge of our designer series paper on the left or the right side. Okay, so here again, this I do kind of measure because I want to make sure that I don't get adhesive on the outside. So I'm just going to take and make a little tick mark here to know that I have to keep my adhesive on the left side of that. And I'm going to use the snail, or the Stampin' Seal Plus. They haven't had snail for a couple years now. And I went really crazy over the edges, so we're going to just roll them over. Okay, then we're going to lay this down, or we're going to put this white piece right where my tick mark was, in the center, more or less in the center. Again, I'm not measuring, and so I'm not a very straight person. And then I have my fold over. Then this whole thing is going to get placed on the inside of your card. Okay, so we're going to attach it then to the outside. So I'm just going to put adhesive on all of this. And I do like my silicone mat so that if I do go and get too zealous with it, it doesn't stick to my good grid paper. Which, by the way, this was grid paper that I got when I went to On Stage last year. And I'm hoping that I get to go this year. Not sure. They're not having them virtually, so that makes it a little bit tougher on me. Before I press it down, I'm going to make sure that I've got it lined up on the right-hand side, which I do. So now that is done. Now we're going to make our little opening flap. And I had a hard time deciding whether I wanted to use Calypso Coral or the Parakeet Party. But I decided that this would be a good way to showcase the Parakeet Party. It is a very bright green. However, it's a very pretty green when you start mixing it with the other in colors. So I don't mind it so much. I am using the Hello There from the Peekaboo Farm set. Yeah, Peekaboo Farm. I just love this little Hello There. And so I wanted to use that on the outside.
They have another Hello There, but it's a current one?
Well, so is this one.
Oh, that one's still current? Okay.
And I am doing this stamping in the Starry Sky. And I'm using a blob. I call it a blob because it's just like an ink spot. And it's coming from the Hello Beautiful. So you've got these different blob things that make a nice background. And you can make them dark or light. Oh, yeah. You could also use this one here, this Hello There from the Nature's Prints. And that's a real pretty stamp set, too. But I'm going to use the Hello There from the Peekaboo Farm. What I'm going to do first, though, on my piece of basic white circle, I am going to... It's not the piece I want. Where's the piece that I was already... Here it is. I wanted the piece that was already all messed up with ink. I'm going to stamp off my Calypso Coral because I don't want it dark. See how dark that would be if I left it. And then that one is still a little bit too dark for me. So I wanted that light one. So we're going to stamp off once, stamp off twice, and I should have my mat, and I don't. So we're going to use my silicone mat, and we're going to stamp that blob kind of in the center. See there? So it's just a light, and I did the same thing, and this one turned out even lighter. So it's just I guess it's the pressure that you put on it, but it just kind of gives it a little background, and I like that. Starry Sky is what I used for the hello there. And I wasn't so sure how I would like this Butterfly Kisses DSP, but of course my assistant thought this whole set was really cute, so of course we had to buy it. And I'm going to stamp hello there, full strength, right in the center of that. Ah! Oh my goodness, look what I did, ladies. I got ink all over my hands. Take my chamois and wipe it off. Let me get some of my, because the more I'm wiping, the more it's getting all over me. My hand sanitizer. And hopefully I can get it rubbed off of me, because that will make a mess. It's a good thing I'm not going on a date tonight, because I'd have blue fingers. Okay. Good enough. I don't think it's going to transfer. Almost done with this. We're going to attach that to our Parakeet Party scallop circle. This camera stand that I'm looking at building will be right, my camera will be right above where my hands are. I'm excited. I can't wait. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to attach our circle to our front little flappy there. Okay, flappy there. My language, right? So we're going to flip it open so that we kind of have a judgment of where we need to apply our glue. And we're just going to lay down some glue on that. And before we do a full stick on, see, I got it crooked. Before we did a full stick on, I checked it, fold it over, open again, and there we go. That one is done. And we are using our new, if I can find where I've laid them. They were here in my basket. There they are. These are the new 2223 in color matte decorative dots. And if you all came to my stamp class on the 14th, you got a package of these. So I kind of went with the Orchid Oasis. I don't know why I didn't go with the Starry Sky, but we're going to go with the Starry Sky on this one. And we're just going to put, whoops, flip yourself over there. Whoops, flip everything over there. Come on. And we're going to put another one down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to take one of the larger Parakeet Parties, and I'm going to put it right there. So there is card number 2. A really cool and simple little layout using up scraps, and you could use that with any paper. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a particular paper. Okay, card number 3 today is really a fun card, and it's also using the fun flowers that are the resin shapes, and these come with the butterfly, best butterfly bundle that has the paper and the die and stamp set, and then you get these little resin flowers. So this is our card for this one.
Bring it down. You can't see it.
Oh, can't see it. Okay. See, I can't wait till I get my new stand, because then it's going to be right directly above me, and that's going to be awesome. awesome for you and awesome for me. All right. So I did already stamp You're My Bestie because I didn't know how much time we would have. So, and then this is the butterfly. This is the other butterfly that comes in the set. However, I did fail to punch all those little pieces out of there. And you could leave those in there. And again, I did not use my adhesive sheets. I could have, but I didn't. It was laziness on my part. I didn't feel like getting them out. Yes, Cindy, it will be very nice because I know then that once I get it set, I'm going to mark my desk so that I don't have to worry about trying to keep figuring it out every week. There we go. Okay, so now this card is also a regular card base that's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And you cut off, I believe it's an inch on this one as well. My little, where's my little ruler? There it is. It went on a walkabout. I cut off 1.5 inches. So you want to cut off 1.5 inches on this one. All right, and so we are using that same designer series paper. And I hope I didn't cut this too short. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. I did, but we're going to make it work. Okay, it should be cut at, I think I was looking at two different measurements. It should be cut at 2.5 by 4. I'm sorry, 2.5 by 5 1/4. However, I cut this one at 2 1/4, so I'm 1/4 of an inch off. But we are going to make it work, and we are just going to center it in on the front of our flap. And again, we're going to use our liquid glue. You know, I used to never like glue. Never. I mean, for years and years, I would see people using glue and think, oh my gosh, they're just making such a mess. However, there is times when, depending on what kind of glue you have, you do make a mess. I don't like the gel glue because I think it's messy. But this glue that I can put in my fine tip bottle, I really like. Because then I can kind of shift this to get it as straight as I can. Okay, so that part of that is done. Then I have a 4 by 4 square that I've scored at 1 inch. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that. That is going to go on and attach to the inside. But before we do that, we have to stamp our inside. So we are going to be using the Stamparatus again. And this stamp is from a new set that's in the catalog, and it's called Stepping Stones. And there's a whole bunch of different greetings in it, and I'll show it to you here. A lot of them, well, I would say almost all of them, are quotes from famous people. So the one I'm using today is from Helen Keller. So there's my Stamparatus with my thing, and now let me, if I can remember how, there we go. And you want this pretty much to the edge, to the left side, but I'm going to bring it down. I think I brought it down before when I set it up, and I just didn't remember. Because you don't want it to be above your 4 by 4 square. So you brought it down. It's probably been brought down to be about 1 1/16. from the top edge. So that's good. It's at the 1 1/4. And I've got it from the side left about maybe 3/4 of an inch. I don't know. But I could even bring it down lower than that, I think. So that it gives you still a little bit of room to write a note for someone. I'm looking for my... I can't use that stamp pad. That's what we're using. And I do like to use either a stamp pad or a stamp case to put my stamp apparatus on, so that it gives me a level surface to ink it up. I don't know if you can see that on camera or not. Move it over here a little bit. So I've inked up boy, it's not wanting to slide on my paper grid today. Okay, and because it's a little bit lighter than what I want, I'm going to go ahead and re-ink it and stamp it again, but I had gotten ink. I'm messy today with ink. I don't know why, but I've been really messy. This is just like not wanting to scooch on my paper. Let's try that because we didn't shift it, thank goodness. Much better. Gives me a much bolder stamp image. Just going to close it up on my stamp so that it doesn't get that dark blue everywhere. And this is the Starry Sky. I am really, really beginning to like all these colors. So we're going to, first of all, we have another piece of the Designer Series paper. And this was the same piece that I'd used on the other card, on the second card, where it has those green dots to it. So you can kind of see what that looks like. We're going to attach that, and that piece measures 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. And like I said, as soon as I can get my printer to scan for me, I want to scan in the diagram that I typed or that I drew up for you. Then I'm going to have these directions and the measurements out on my blog, SusieQStamping.com. So then you can go out and get them from there. And while I'm finishing this, I do want to mention, I don't know how many of you seen it on Facebook, but Stampin' Up! Is having a special campaign, and that's celebrating heroes. Not just your normal heroes, but anybody that does something special for you. There is a blurb on my Facebook page. Okay, so now we're going to attach adhesive here, and then we're going to lay our inside down. And I am using my Stampin' Seal Plus. I love this stuff because it is strong and it does become permanent. But even if even if you have to very carefully get something lifted up, you can. Ask me how I know, because I've done it many times. So now we are going to center that in for our card. That looks pretty good. I think the top's a little bit wider, but that's okay. We're not going to worry about that. Now we're going to adhere this whole thing to the inside of our card. And I don't want that mechanism to come off because it's going to be used a lot on opening and closing the whole card. All right. There we go. So far, so good. So that's how that one's going to close. Now we're going to take our You're My Bestie again, and I am used the, what are they called? The deckled rectangle dies. So they're kind of like our stitched rectangle dies, except they have like a deckled edge, like it looks like it's been torn, and it does emboss just a little teeny tiny border around there. So it makes it really kind of, makes it look like a jagged edge. Okay, so I'm going to attach this. And good news, ladies, I am going to be a presenter at our October Stampin' Up meeting in Kansas City. So if there's a particular card that I've done a really fantastic job on that you think I ought to demonstrate, then let me know so that I can start practicing on that. It's going to be kind of like doing a YouTube or a live Facebook, except there'll be like 50 to 75 people there in person that'll be watching me. Okay, again, I was too lazy to go and get my adhesive sheets. So I'm just putting little dots of glue on these delicate wings and on his little antennas. I should not have been so lazy. And I can tell you, ladies, I was able to view the new mini catalog yesterday. There are some really cool things. There's some really cool things coming up for the celebration catalog that will run from July 1st through August. The mini catalog will run July through December. And I am excited. And then I just laid my butterfly flat. I then took some of those fun flower resin shapes, and these come, they're supposed to be the in colors. However, I'm not, well, no, they're not really the in colors because this is going to be crushed curry, calypso coral, fresh freesia. This could be the starry sky, and then of course the green parakeet party. But we're going to use the calypso coral because I think it just kind of brings out the calypso coral that's in our butterflies. So randomly placing 2 small flowers and 1 big flower. And there is card number 3. Let me grab some of this stuff out of the way so that you can see all the 3 cards, and then I want to show you a logo product that is available for all of my customers or non-customers if you so choose. So here is card number 3, and I love this because it says, "You're my bestie. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." And that is so true. When you have a best friend, you can do so much with your best friend. This one says, "Hello there."
Bring them down.
Bring them down. Okay. All right. And then here is this one that says, "You're my bestie." And then on the inside it says, "So glad to know you," or "So glad something, so glad. So glad you exist." Okay. So those are our 3 cards. Our winner from last week's cards is Karen Bond from Jeff City. So Karen, you will get those cards when I see you again at Card Club in June. Let's see. Oh, yes, I want to show you the beautiful, beautiful. One of my customers, Cherie, she has one of these, and I think she has it in the Orchid Oasis, I think. So here is, let me see if I can raise this up without messing things up. So here are the new tumblers that have the Stampin' Up! Logo on it. This one is in Starry Sky, so it's kind of dark blue and it's got sparkles in it. This is Dorothy's. Audrey wants one. She's not sure which color. And then I got the Tahitian Tide. Now, I don't know if I can really dump mine because I have water in mine. Can you imagine that would be a mess all over my desk? But here is the Tahitian Tide. Is it going to come in the camera? I'm waiting for it to.
It's in there.
It's in there? Okay, well, it's.
The light is making it look a different color, though.
So that's the Tahitian Tide. So they come in all of the 5 in colors, the Tahitian Tide, Orchid Oasis, Parakeet Party, Starry Sky, and Sweet Sorbet. And they're really not bad.
They look true to
they do look
inks.
true to the color on the ink pads. So number 3 is your favorite, huh? And Cindy, you can't choose. Well, that's good. Well, you know what? There's something for everybody all the time, I'm hoping anyway. So, ladies, until next Thursday, which will be June 2nd, be watching on, probably in an email, a discontinuing list for our current mini catalog that will be ending June 30th. They're going to be posting out there the retiring list. Maybe some of the products in there will stay and become part of our new catalog next year, like this year. We had several sets that stayed, and that was really exciting. I'm really thinking about doing one of the new floral set papers, one of the DSPs with the florals on it, and see what we can come up with. But until then, we will see you all later. You guys all have a safe holiday weekend. I don't plan on going anywhere other than to California, Missouri for my husband's reunion dinner. That ought to be exciting. But other than that, I'll be going to church on Sunday, and that's in Eldon, but I'm not going anywhere near Osage Beach. Not a chance. So I may even pop on here sometime over the weekend and just do a impromptu making something. All right, everybody, you guys have a safe holiday weekend, and we will see you all next week. Bye.